With cattle smuggling coming down considerably along the Bengal-Bangladesh border, smugglers have found an alternative, smuggling Rohingya from Bangladesh into India. Take a look at this special report.
Their desperation to flee from persecution has led to Myanmar's Rohingya Muslims coming face to face with another peril. Smugglers. Across the border of Bangladesh and Malda in Bengal, cattle smugglers have been active for decades. And now, with the help of agents in Bangladesh, they're trying to smuggle in Rohingyas.
With lakhs and lakhs Rohingya Muslims crossing over into Bangladesh from Myanmar's Rakhine state, several states in India's eastern region have been put on alert. States like West Bengal, Tripura, Assam, Mizoram and Meghalaya, the states that share its border with Bangladesh, have been put on alert.
This is nothing short of a racket. Agents from both sides strike a deal and fix rates, even offering discounts if an entire Rohingya family wants to cross over. Profit margins for smuggling Rohingyas is not as high as cattle smuggling, but in absence of any other jobs, they have done this as their sole source of livelihood.
25,000, 50,000 जैसा भी होता है वैसा हम लोग कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर लेते हैं.
अच्छा, तो एक आदमी का 20 से 25,000 आप लेते हैं.
हाँ.
और अगर बच्चा है तो कितना पैसा लेते हैं आप?
बच्चा का भी वैसा ही वो 50% डिस्काउंट कर देते हैं हम लोग. हाँ, जब बच्चा है छोड़ो 50% डिस्काउंट कर देते हैं.
So what is the modus operandi? Cattle smugglers claim just as they are in touch with agents in Bangladesh for the smuggling of cattle, the same agent finds them the Rohingya family from refugee camps and strikes a deal. Once they come close to the Indian border, laborers hired by the smugglers help these Rohingyas cross the border. There are fixed rates for smuggling of Rohingyas.
एक आदमी के 20 से 25,000 लेते हैं. एक साथ एक फैमिली में अगर 5 आदमी या 6 आदमी होता है तो उससे हम लोग 20,000 25,000 डिस्काउंट देते हैं. 80,000 75,000 में पार करते हैं.
For a male or female, the rate is anywhere between 20,000 to 25,000 rupees. For a child below 10 years, the rate is 2,000 to 5,000 rupees. If a family of 5 wants to cross over, instead of charging them a lakh, they get a discount and can shell out 75,000 to 80,000 rupees.
In the process, in the last 2 months, almost about 60 to 70 Rohingyas either moving from India into Bangladesh or coming from Bangladesh into India, we were able to apprehend and take the necessary appropriate action.
With a stretch of more than 2,000 kilometers, Bengal has the longest border with Bangladesh compared to other states in eastern India.
And we are at the BOP Beldanga here, and 500 meters from here, right next to the water body, is the international border, and beyond that is the Bangladesh territory. And security agencies actually predict that there could be a possible Rohingya influx, and in the run-up to those possibilities, the BSF has actually tightened security across the border.
While India's border security force has strengthened security across the border, the biggest challenge is unfenced borders.
And in case they come towards the border, then we apprehend them in some of the courses where they have tried to smuggle across, and then we hand them over to the local police to take appropriate action. So it's more of in synchronized working with the West Bengal State Police has helped us in maintaining this kind of a watch over these people.
The increasing influx of Rohingyas into India has led to the Home Ministry cautioning states neighbouring Bangladesh to be extra vigilant. But with vast stretches of unfenced borders and a large number of Rohingyas desperate to gain entry, it's a daunting task ahead of authorities. Bureau Report, WION.
And we're joined right now by WION's Bureau Chief in Bangladesh, Saad Hamadi from Dhaka, for the very latest on that story. Saad, good afternoon. This report in some ways exposes how smugglers are helping Rohingya cross over into India illegally at that. Can you please throw some more light on the way that this entire operation is undertaken by smugglers and what kind of money they seem to be making out of the entire operation?
It is clearly very alarming, but on Bangladesh's end, I've tried to check with the Border Guard Bangladesh, the International Organization for Migration, those who are on the ground monitoring the situation, and there has not been any report of the Rohingyas being trafficked into India from Bangladesh at this point in time. However, having said that, we have noticed that this case of smuggling of human trafficking, so to speak, has been happening for time unknown, and that has been happening for a long time, and not just in case of Rohingyas, but in the past they have happened for money as low as 10,000 takas or even 5,000 takas that we have noticed. So with the case of Rohingyas, the situation might be similar, and what we gather is that in most cases the trafficking happens as a purpose of engaging these women and children into prostitution in India, and that may still be the case even with the Rohingyas.
How have authorities, Saad, in Bangladesh responded to these developments? Any action that they've taken so far? And how big is the smuggling racket altogether?
No, as I mentioned, that the racket or the size of the racket is still not known. The smugglers have been active even in the past, but what the Border Guard Bangladesh has informed its counterpart, the Border Security Forces in India, early in October, is that these rackets have been active, and in a process to stop or curb this trafficking, they have intensified their checkposts in the West Bengal and other bordering regions. They have identified about 140 locations that are vulnerable, and they have intensified the surveillance in those areas to stop this trafficking of human beings, including the Rohingyas for that matter. And as I have also gathered, that there has been a situation in the past since this crisis erupted with the Rohingyas. A pushback situation has also been witnessed by the Border Guard Bangladesh, saying that there have been Rohingyas who have been trying to enter from India over to Bangladesh, and they have tried to stop that as well. So the crisis is on both sides, and I think both security forces have shared their minds and have agreed on increasing the security on the borders to stop the smuggling and cross-border trespassing.
Right, and one of the big concerns also, Saad, is of course that long stretch of unfenced border between the two countries. That remains a key concern in many ways. Are authorities taking note of this? What exactly is the counter plan of action?
Yes, indeed. Bangladesh and India share one of the largest borders in the world. It's about 4,096 kilometers that the two countries share the borders, and many of these areas remain porous and vulnerable because of waterways, and not many places can be guarded with fences. Security posts are there, the checkposts that the paramilitary forces of India and Bangladesh have put in the places are still there, but it's also a case of connivance with some members of the security agencies who allow these cattle smuggling as well as human trafficking to take place. And both sides are involved in this. As much as it is a concern of the state, and both countries have stepped up their vigilance and surveillance to stop human trafficking, it still remains a concern. The BGB, for that matter, has also shared that they have intensified their security protocols and members in the borders. We've also heard from the Home Minister, the Indian Home Minister Rajnath Singh, saying that they have intensified, they've increased the number of the patrols in the western borders, in the eastern borders of India with Bangladesh, and this will be a continuous process. The crisis with Rohingyas has also given a fresh concern for both countries to stop them from migrating from one country to another illegally. The trafficking that takes place, the prostitution as well as cattle smuggling, all of these are concerns. With the Rohingya issue coming in front, there is a multi-pronged crisis we get to hear, and security agencies in both the countries are vigilant right now. As we can see, the number of human trafficking of the Rohingyas that my colleague Pooja has shared, it's about 60 in numbers that the security personnel have arrested. It's still lower compared to the 1 million Rohingyas staying in Bangladesh, and that needs to be guarded, and it's a responsibility of both countries to check, to curb on their free movement until there is a situation, there is an agreement between the countries and the states to provide them with security as well as benefits that they deserve as refugees, and a situation is taken in place whereby they can return to their homeland. Until then, I think every country in the region remains a concern.
All right, Saad, thanks very much for that update from Dhaka. I'm also joined on the phone line right now by WION's Pooja Mehta. Remember, she's the one who filed that report for us. Pooja, good afternoon. Thanks for speaking with us. How vast is this racket?
Well, Aisha, the border security force in India has actually highlighted in the last 2 months. They have arrested close to 62 to 63 Rohingyas who were trying to actually cross the border and enter into the Indian territory. Why, just as Saad was highlighting that, illegal infiltration has been rampant on the Indo-Bangladesh border for years now. But the latest to this is the Rohingya influx. In fact, the border security force has tightened security across the border because there is close to 4,096 kilometers that runs between India and Bangladesh, and the longest boundary is between Bengal and Bangladesh, close to 2,216 kilometers. And all those cattle smugglers who are active in several parts of West Bengal, like Malda, from where I had filed a report, because of the BSF tightening security and the state agencies coming down heavily on the cattle smuggling issue, all these cattle smugglers have actually engaged with their agents on the either side in Bangladesh, and they are actually helping all those Rohingyas who are wanting to enter into the Indian territory for some 1,000 rupees, close to 20,000 rupees per person. And if a family of 5 wants to enter the Indian territory, they also give out a discount. However, the cattle smugglers whom we spoke to have doubled up for Rohingya smugglers, and they're saying that there is a lot of competition between other smugglers. If they do not give out discounts, the chances are high that other cattle smugglers would actually strike the deal and help Rohingyas enter into the Indian territory.
Right. Right, and from your report there, Pooja, we also found that there are concerns in terms of the Indian security forces as far as the local support network goes as well. Is there indication that there is a vast network that's also assisting these people once they move into Indian territory?
Well, absolutely. If you consider this particular area of Malda district in West Bengal, there is a lot of illegal activity that goes on besides the Rohingya smuggling or cattle smuggling for that matter. Perhaps Malda has now become a capital for fake currency distribution across the country and a capital for opium trade. And with these illegal activities going on, a lot of villagers actually act as carriers in terms of transporting the opium, in terms of acting as carriers for fake currency, who actually get the fake currency from Bangladesh into India and circulate in the country.
Right.
And besides that, the border security force has been highlighting that they are acting on highest levels with the state agency to prevent any such influx and any such illegal trade.
Pooja, thanks very much. Stay with us a second. Joining me on the phone line right now is the former Director General of Police, Uttar Pradesh, Vikram Singh. Sir, thanks very much for speaking with us here at WION. Does this report that WION's filed indicate in some ways or rather strengthen India's concerns over national security when it comes to this influx of Rohingya?
Thank you very much for taking my views. I'm of the strong view that the ISI Rohingya nexus is known to the world. And the ISI being on the backbone of the Rohingya anti-national activities, India has to be extra vigilant and cautious in the backdrop of these reports of cattle smuggling. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Let us not make any mistake that they are into counterfeit, Indian currency smuggling, narcotics, illegal arms and explosives, as also other underworld and espionage activities. Now, our concern have to be in the topmost gear, because to look the other way or to take a humanitarian attitude will not help us in any manner. We have to take a tough stand in national interest and have a no-nonsense approach towards Rohingya infiltration, because as it is, we have our hands full. There is no way that we can accommodate Rohingyas, number one. Number two, that their infiltration in the rise of illegal migrants will only create further problems and will not solve any. Therefore, the IB, RAW, BSF, and the West Bengal police will have to be doubly cautious.
Absolutely. So national security, but undoubtedly also an eye on the raging humanitarian crisis will have to be considered. Sir, very many thanks for joining us here on WION with your views. Also Pooja Mehta, my colleague, for bringing us the story and of course her perspective on one that we'll be keeping track of.